Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into the best open-world VR games you can play right now. These are the VR experiences that don't feel like small levels. They feel like real worlds, where you can explore, survive, fight, and get completely lost for hours. And I'm mixing playable hits with the newest releases and the freshest hype, so you'll get a list that's actually worth your time. From brutal survival islands to giant fantasy adventures and endless space exploration, every game here brings that true. Bootstrap Island drops you on a hostile tropical island and makes you earn every single step forward. This is survival in VR at its most hands-on. You're not just clicking menus, you're physically crafting, grabbing, cutting, and building like you're actually there. You'll start with almost nothing, and the island quickly teaches you what matters. Find food and clean water, build a shelter before the weather turns, and keep your tools ready because danger can show up when you least expect it. What makes Bootstrap Island feel special is the freedom. You explore, you choose your priorities, and you slowly turn chaos into control. One run, you might focus on building a safe base. The next, you might push deeper into the jungle for better resources. And because it's VR, every small victory hits harder. Lighting a fire, upgrading your setup, surviving the night, it all feels personal. If you love open-world survival with a real sense of presence, Bootstrap Island is absolutely one to watch and one to play. Arken Age throws you into a wild sci-fi world that feels built for exploration. You're moving through massive alien environments, scanning for secrets, grabbing upgrades, and fighting through enemies that actually push back. The best part is how open it feels. You're not just walking down a hallway, you're choosing paths, backtracking with new abilities, and discovering hidden zones that reward curiosity. Combat is fast and physical, with satisfying weapons and that VR weight where every swing and shot feels real. And visually, it pops, bright tech, strange creatures, and big-scale scenery that makes you want to keep going. If you want an action-adventure VR game with open areas, progression, and that constant what's over there feeling, Arken Age is a strong pick. Zenith, the last city, is one of the closest things to a real open-world MMO in VR. You're not stuck in tiny arenas, you're climbing mountains, gliding across huge zones, and running quests with other players like it's a living world. The vibe is pure anime sci-fi, bright cities, wild landscapes, and that constant sense that something is happening somewhere. What makes Zenith addictive is the freedom. You can explore, grind gear, join events, or just wander with friends and find trouble. Combat feels active and fast, and leveling up actually changes how you move and fight. And because it's multiplayer, every session feels different. You'll meet random squads, jump into boss fights, or get pulled into chaos you didn't plan. If you want social open-world VR with progression and that MMO loop, Zenith hits the spot. Into the Radius is the kind of VR survival game that makes you feel alone in the best and worst way. You're dropped into a haunting open zone filled with strange anomalies, shadowy enemies, and abandoned ruins that beg to be searched. The world doesn't rush you, but it never feels safe. Every trip outside your base becomes a tense expedition, where you plan your route, pack the right gear, and pray your ammo lasts. What really sells it is how physical everything is. You manually reload, manage magazines, clean your weapons, and sort your backpack like it's your real lifeline. And the exploration loop is insanely satisfying. You push deeper, find artifacts, grab loot, return to sell it, then upgrade for the next run. But the Radius always changes the mood. Fog rolls in, distant sounds mess with your head, and suddenly a simple supply run feels like a horror mission. If you want an open-world VR experience with real survival tension, smart progression, and unmatched atmosphere, Into the Radius is a must-play. Skydance's Behemoth is one of those VR games that instantly makes you feel small. You're thrown into a brutal, cinematic world, where every step feels heavy, every climb feels risky, and every fight feels like it could be your last. This isn't a quick arena brawler. It's a full adventure built around exploration, survival, and those how-am-I-supposed-to-beat-that moments. You'll move through wide, open environments, ruined settlements, frozen paths, and towering landscapes that constantly pull you forward. But the real headline is the Behemoths. These are massive creatures that feel like walking disasters. You don't just fight them, you hunt them. You climb onto them, grab on, strike weak points, and try to survive while the world shakes around you. Combat in general is physical and gritty, with weapons that feel weighty and dangerous, and enemies that punish sloppy moves. And because it's VR, the scale hits different. Looking up at a behemoth isn't cool, it's intimidating. If you want an open-world style VR action game with huge set pieces, intense melee combat, and that epic boss hunting fantasy, Skydance's Behemoth is absolutely a must-play. No Man's Sky is basically an open universe you can live inside. You're not exploring one map, you're jumping between planets, landing wherever you want, and turning random worlds into your own story. In VR, it hits harder because everything feels real. Flying your ship, grabbing the controls, stepping onto a new planet, and seeing the scale in front of you. You can mine resources, build a base, trade, upgrade your gear, fight in space, or just wander and scan wildlife for hours. And the best part is the freedom. One session can be chill exploration, the next can turn into survival when storms hit or enemies show up. If you want pure open-world sandbox in VR, nothing feels bigger than No Man's Sky. Grim is a survival VR game that leans hard into that open-world zombie vibe. You're dropped into a large, dangerous map where you're constantly choosing what matters most: loot now, build a base, or push deeper for better gear. Everything is hands-on. You craft weapons, manage your inventory, and physically fight for resources like your life depends on it, because it does. The world is packed with threats, but it's also full of opportunities. One run, you might focus on upgrading your shelter and stockpiling supplies. The next, you might roam for rare items and take bigger risks. And because it's VR, every close call feels intense. Reloading under pressure, hearing something behind you, and realizing you're not ready. If you want open-ended survival, crafting, and zombie chaos in VR, Grim is a solid pick. Jolly Roger is pure pirate fantasy in first-person VR, with that open-ended adventure feel where you're always chasing the next clue, the next island, the next piece of treasure. You're exploring tropical locations, solving puzzles, and fighting your way through danger with classic pirate tools like swords and pistols, all with that hands-on VR weight. What makes it fun is the vibe. It's bright, cinematic, and it constantly pushes you to look around, climb, search, and interact with the world instead of just running forward. You can take your time looting, uncovering secrets, and enjoying the scenery, or you can play it fast and aggressive when things get messy. If you want a story-driven VR adventure that still feels like you're roaming through a pirate world, Green Hell VR is one of the most intense open-world survival experiences you can play in virtual reality, because it doesn't feel like a game. It feels like a real fight to stay alive. You're stranded deep in the Amazon, and the jungle is basically an enemy. You have to manage hunger, hydration, energy, and injuries, and the scary part is how hands-on everything is. You're crafting tools with your own hands, checking your arms for wounds, pulling out leeches, and treating infections before they spiral into something worse. Exploration is a big deal here. You can roam through dense forests, rivers, caves, and hidden camps, but every step costs something. You'll constantly ask yourself, do I push forward for better resources, or do I play it safe and build up my shelter first? And the atmosphere is brutal. The sounds, the weather, the darkness at night, it's the kind of VR immersion that makes you hesitate before walking into the trees. If you love open-world survival with realistic systems, high tension, and full VR interaction, Green Hell VR is absolutely a must-play. Asgard's Wrath 2 feels like a full-scale, open-world action RPG that was made for VR from the ground up, and the first thing you notice is how big it feels. You're not stuck in tiny levels. You're traveling across huge regions, pushing through ancient ruins, finding hidden paths, and constantly getting rewarded for exploring off the main route. Combat is a huge reason people love it. You're blocking, swinging, throwing, and using abilities in a way that feels physical, not scripted. Every fight has that VR intensity where you're fully involved, and when you win, it actually feels earned. But what makes Asgard's Wrath 2 special is the variety. One moment you're solving puzzles and hunting secrets, the next you're looting gear, upgrading your build, and jumping into a bigger battle. The progression loop is addictive. You keep getting stronger, unlocking new tools, and opening up even more of the world, which makes you want to keep going. Just one more quest. And the scale isn't only about map size. The game also hits you with larger-than-life moments, mythic creatures, and perspective shifts that make everything feel epic, without losing that grounded, hands-on VR feel. If you want an open-world VR game that feels premium, content-packed, and genuinely different from most VR titles, Asgard's Wrath 2 is one of the best you can play right now.